We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Estamos otra vez aquí listos, ready to give you knowledge on some of the things have to do with reading and photo editing. Estamos aquí listos para darles una información acerca de cómo uno puede leer mejor y cómo uno puede también editar fotografías. Mr. Steven's going to take care of the part of photo editing, and then, of course, I'll work on the reading part. Um, Let me go ahead and, hey, Steven, how much do you read, man? Do you read a lot? Like, do you actually get like novels and read them?
Say it one more time.
How much do you read? Do you get like novels and read them? Do you read the newspaper, or you basically just concentrate on your music and try to get more of that, uh, reading information on that?
Uh, Man, the last time I read like a novel, I don't know, it was a long time ago. Um, there's a lot of things I read nowadays usually comes from the internet.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you get little pieces here and there, right? Okay. Well, here's what we have for my side. Okay. We do not want to leave you this summer understanding this part right here. Okay. That we are providing you all with resources. Remember when I post this up here, ladies and gentlemen? Test your reading skills. All right. How fast do you read? Aquí les estamos dando recursos para que ustedes puedan usar. Since we're not going to be talking to each other for about a month and a half, guess what? Well, you need to really, we want to leave you with that very important thought. Read, read, read. And if possible, if you can just get books and instead of burning your eyeballs looking at a screen, just go to the library and do it the old-fashioned way. Uh, and read whatever you want. So that way you can keep those cognitive skills flowing in your head and be able to detect, little things here and there. Okay? So remember that we're giving you this website right here where you can actually test your skills right here. You actually pick up what kind of story you want to read. You tell them the level that you're at, and then of course you select the story. They only give you about three of them, but that's okay because that's the way you can keep on testing your speed to see if you're improving or not. Okay. Aquí tenemos esta website, este recurso que les ayuda a ver qué tanto están leyendo, qué tan rápido y qué tanto están entendiendo de lo que están leyendo. Okay. So just wanted to bring that up real quick. Nomás quería llevarles esto. So that's one thing that I had. The other thing that I had was this. La otra cosa que tenía también es esto. On this part right here, notice that we also gave you this. Noten que también les dimos esto. Student learning styles for reading class. Okay? Everybody is different. Todos nosotros somos diferentes. Um, our minds are, you know, have different ways of thinking. So this website basically gives you the idea, it gives you information of why you are the person you are. Okay? Are you a visual learner? ¿Es usted una persona que visualmente entiende cosas? Are you auditory? Que oye las cosas y las entiende rápidamente. It's important. We're giving you this information so that you know yourself. Who are you? Once you know yourself, then you're able to work around the things in your environment to be able to help you. Okay, because the worst thing that a person can think of is being lost. But when you know yourself, you know, okay, I cannot do that because I need to work on certain things. Oh, that's easy for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Okay? So those are the things you need to know. And reading all this information, who are you? Alrighty, this is what's gonna help you out. Okay. So once again, month and a half, what are you gonna do? Otra vez, aquí estamos, un mes y medio, ¿qué va a hacer? So, brush up on your reading skills. Fíjese en lo que tiene que ver reading and writing, um, all this information. What's good about this website is that you have so many categories. Aquí tiene tantas categorías, okay, that you as a student can look into. Usted estudiante puede fijarse, okay? We're probably ahead of our times right here in this school because we are actually teaching you to think and figure things out by yourself as opposed to us teaching you stuff. So, like for example, right now, we're not going to be with you, but you know what? You can teach yourself in business, okay? What do I need to know in business? I have two teachers here, Mr. Acosta and Mr. Stevens. What can they teach me? The only thing they told me is to go to business and then educate myself. And they told me to go and click on topics and then read up on them. In actuality, that's basically all we need in life now because everything is here for us. Okay? Uh, of course, we bring you experiences in life. Aquí pueden ustedes ver que van a tener un mes y medio, no vamos a estar con ustedes. ¿Qué van a hacer? Lean, okay? Read information. Now, here's the other thing I want to go ahead and leave you with. Otra de las cosas que quiero dejarles es esto. A lot of times your parents are so busy at work, okay? Hay muchas veces que sus padres están muy ocupados en el trabajo. A lot of times they come home tired. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if if they're having issues with their boss. You don't know that they're worried about, I don't know, car insurance. You don't know that they're worried about other bills. Okay? So you at this point in your life, you don't have a job, but you have time. What are you gonna do with that time? And that's where you can use it to read and build up your mind, and that way you can actually come back and help your parents with that. How? Well, take for example this, okay? If you go to your parents because you have issues at school, and now your parents have no idea about the voucher thing. They don't know because they don't have time for that, okay? And nobody tells them anything. Guess what? We just gave you that information. You can look more into it, and then you can figure it out, and then you can tell your parents, okay? So, like for example, I went over to this different browser, and this is the Duck browser, and I told them, okay, tell us more about the vouchers. And I came across this section right here that this principal was talking about, okay? So notice what this principal says uh, about this. Fíjense lo que está diciendo este principal de esto. He says this. Uh, Let me go and take you to the section that I was reading, which is this one right here. Okay, so here's a little town. All right, I'm coming. Views of rural Texas. It says right here the school district has around 700 total students in a town of 2,654. A few years ago, enrollment was dropping as families moved away and looked for more robust education programs. Now they have a dual course and career pathways. So it's giving us an idea, okay, so 700 students and in a little town. What are they going to do? Look at what the superintendent says. Superintendent Gilbert Trevino said kids in Floyd-Dada, that's a weird name, Floyd-Dada, Dada, Floyd-Dada, get a good education, but it's fairly common for rural students to move between nearby school districts for specific programs like sports and other curriculars. Okay, so now he's saying, okay, we have other people that are going through different ones. And then he says, if a student isn't happy with Floyd Dada, Collegiate ISD, Trevino said they can choose to go to school like Lockney and Rawls and Matador. Now, just to throw this off for you, okay, you see how this school district does this? Floyd, first of all, man, I probably would change the name, but that's just me because that I can just imagine how other people will make fun of that name. What do you spell it like Floyd Dada or Floyd Dada? I mean, it's just weird. And then they add collegiate. All right. Why do they add collegiate? Because they want to go to make sure that when people see this district, they say, "Oh, it's college. I gotta take my child to college," and they're already doing it in high school. So a lot of these things are deceiving. Okay, and we have to go and be on the lookout. And he says they can choose to go to any other district. Okay, so he's so far saying that they can go through other districts, right? He made it clear that he's not against school choice. Now, we're reading this information because I want you to look at little details that maybe you might not be looking at. All right, so he says school choice. In fact, like Superintendent Whitbeck in Fort Bend ISD, Trevino said families already have that in Texas. I'm a firm believer that parents and kids to be where they feel comfortable. That's what this guy says, right? But I'm against public funds going to private institutions. It's kind of like he just contradicted himself there. How can he be? Uh, he's a believer that kids can go anywhere, but now he's saying right here, but not to private schools, because I don't want the money to go to them. Well, what if the school districts are not doing their job? Why can't they go and come over here? Once again, that's where you, as the reader, you need to figure out, okay, which way do I go with this, okay? Do I believe in this guy? Who is this guy? Remember, he's in the school district. They need money. That's the way they operate. If there's no students, they don't get the money. So surely he's going to say no. But why is he saying for the other districts? Because it's okay. They can share the wealth with other people that are the same like they are. But it seems like they have something against private schools. Okay? Now it says if a voucher program of some kind passes in the state, it could affect enrollment in small rural schools. That's what worries Michael Lee, who is executive director of Texas of the Rural Things, which opposes vouchers. He has led rural school districts as superintendent. So, what you're going to be looking at as you're reading this and you're trying to educate your parents, okay, you're trying to figure out what is the best way for me. You as a student, you gotta figure it out. What is the best way for me, and I can tell my parents so they can make the right moves. Okay, so that's where you guys are, doing the things. Yesterday I was trying to figure out, a lawnmower, right? And I was with my son. We bought a lawnmower. We couldn't figure out how to turn it on. So I just told him, hey, my son, why don't you look it up on the YouTube channel and see what we're doing wrong with this thing? How come we cannot turn it on? And sure enough, that's what he did, man. He looked it up, right? And that's where my son taught his father how to figure something out, okay? And that's what you can do by reading and doing research. Educate yourself on that, okay? Finalmente, aquí podemos decir a ustedes que lean la información para que les ayuden a los estudiantes, ¿ok? Okay, Mr. Stevens, let's turn it over to you, sir. Let's see what you got.
Okay, let's do it. So, Acosta, do you remember, um, if you remember the last one that we did, we actually looked at images and we thought of scenarios behind them?
Images and send. Okay. Man, you know what, man? I don't
Like
remember
you,
that one too well, but keep on telling me about it.
basically, I pulled up an image and then I said, basically, the lesson was about how different people we can perceive an image differently,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
we can
yeah.
come
I
up
got it.
with.
Yeah. Uh huh.
There you go. Okay, so if any of you, also audience, if you remember that, I actually chose like three random pictures off of a website,
Uh huh.
and I thought we could do it again, but I went ahead and I chose images from the most popular photographs of all time.
Ok, so aquí estamos viendo fotografías de lo que hemos visto nosotros antes.
So I figured this will be a lot more interesting.
Esto va a ser más interesante.
Now, maybe some of these images, I've chosen about three different ones. Maybe you've seen these before, maybe you haven't.
A lo mejor usted ha visto estas imágenes antes o a lo mejor no.
But these three images are arguably the most well known and most popular.
Estas son imágenes que han sido más populares en el pasado.
So let's take a look at the first one that we have here.
Vamos a ver la primera.
Have you seen this one before?
¿Han visto esta antes? Man,
So take a look, take a good look at it.
fíjense esta imagen.
So in our head, we're thinking of a scenario. What could the scenario be
Esta-
behind this image?
Estamos viendo un escenario y estamos viendo qué es lo que está pasando aquí.
So, Acosta, let's start with you.
Well, I've seen a little bit of this image before. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, but I think they made some commercials about this. But anyway, yeah, I know what's going on, and I think right here, these guys are all blue collar workers. They're working in construction, and they're taking the time to either lunch or I think this guy's reading a newspaper. Oh yeah, this guy's reading a newspaper, and they're all taking a break from constructing a building up in New York. Is that what it is?
Precisely. That is precisely what this is. They're actually having lunch, and they are in New York. And I think the reason I knew that is because this is Central Park right here,
Mm-hmm.
and this photograph is actually it's a very old photograph.
Y este es una fotografía muy vieja.
And that right there is exactly the scenario that we think, when we look at this. They're up here having lunch.
Y están viendo aquí están teniendo el lunch. And you know what's crazy about that is that if people had not seen that photograph, I really think they would have added that it's a Photoshop picture. That is just a bar, and then they put a background on there. But no, it's actually an actual image, man, and I don't understand. I mean,
I mean,
those
it probably freaks people out
it definitely yes, yeah, it
because the
really
thing
does.
is, they are it may not look that high from the perspective of the camera. Maybe they had telephoto back then. I'm not sure. But that is really high off the ground. One slip and you're done.
Hmm. I believe that this is before the OSHA. OSHA had a bunch of regulations that you just don't go and construct the
Oh,
building
yeah.
and
They
be
certainly they would not allow this now.
definitely yeah, you can't do that anymore. Oh, but that's a very good picture, man. Good point.
All right, and that's going to conclude our first image.
Y eso concluye nuestra primera imagen.
Here is our second image, and this is actually, I believe it's a satellite picture from the moon looking at Earth over here.
Y aquí tenemos un retrato que es de un satélite en el espacio y tomando un retrato del mundo.
So let's take a second to look at the image here.
Y vamos a ver la imagen, a ver qué piensan.
So I'll go ahead and go first on this one.
Okay.
I believe the scenario here is that this was taken, I'm going to say from the Apollo 11.
Voy a decir
Because
yo,
that, go ahead.
voy a decir que este fue del Apolo número 1.
And I think that, I think it makes the most sense to me since they landed there on the moon and they've taken many of photographs.
Y que ellos ahí fueron a la luna y tomaron muchos retratos.
But I think this is the most well-known image taken from the moon.
Y esto es algo que se han tomado retratos de la luna.
So what do you think about that?
Oh man, you know what, man? There's so many conspiracy theories about people actually landing on the moon that I go back and forth. I want to say, yeah, I believe that it happened, but then you have other people says that they haven't. So I'm just thinking, Stevens, I'm gonna take it as I guess it was, or it may not be. I don't know, Stevens. I mean, with all this stuff that's going on right now, I want to believe when I was, younger, I believe in this. Yeah, that's from the moon. But is it actually from the moon, Stevens? What do you think?
I mean, there's a whole lot. Yeah, there is a lot of conspiracy theories about this. It's either a Hollywood set or it's the actual moon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, if you want to know my real thoughts on it,
Yeah, definitely. What are your real thoughts on
I believe that what they broadcasted on TV was fake.
it?
Because I'm gonna be real. I mean, first off, how are you gonna get a signal from the moon all the way to the planet Earth, especially with the technology that they had back in like in the 60s, late 60s when they went there? I don't believe they would have like something strong enough to be able to have a signal be received from the moon. I don't think that makes any sense to me. And also, it's funny. My brother actually searched this up. Back then, computers they had so much like they had really low RAM.
Mm-hmm.
Like they only had like kilobytes at this point instead of like now we have like gigabytes
Mm-hmm.
like of like RAM in our computers. But like back then, I mean, they were able to make it to the moon off that. I think that's impressive. If they actually did it though, because if they made it to the moon, I don't think it was broadcasted. They probably did it like by themselves without it being broadcasted. The broadcasted version, I think they just made so that people would think we actually went there because at the time we were in a space race with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So it only makes sense that we would make something so that Russia would see it and then they would think they lost
Mm-hmm.
and people would think that we made it to that's just how I'm thinking about it, because I mean, I'd like to believe that they actually went to the moon, but there's no way it could have been televised.
The reason I'm laughing so hard is because when you brought up this picture, man, I had the vision of you being 100% sure that it was real, and then you come out and tell me that you know your thoughts that it's not. Oh, that's what cracked me up.
I mean,
And
and I
then
mean,
all the
but
things that you said about technology. I mean that just reinforces my point that, man, how in the world did they do that? But
I think it's crazy.
and you students, I mean, everybody is going to stand by what they believe. It's okay. We're not trying to encourage you to believe like us, but given the details of all that was happening, you gotta. have a broad mind. We want to make you think, in all the elements, not just, okay, somebody says this is it and that's it. No, you can't do that. You need to go and question, okay, what was the technology? What was the political environment at the time? What, how's, you got to look at all that. And that's basically what Stevens just brought to us. He actually pinpointed, the areas of why he doesn't think that happened. Now, you may agree or disagree with him. Okay. But that's a good point, man. That's a great point right there because now
Yeah.
that we look at the image, probably the person that actually thought, oh yeah, that was beautiful, man. That was from the moon. And now you told him all that. Now he's looking at the image with a different perspective. And that's what's crazy. But that's the point of this thing. Okay? That is what you're trying to teach us to look at things and, you know, make up your own thoughts on it. Okay? But yeah, that's
Hmm.
my yeah, that's a good
You
explanation
know,
of that.
when I mainly think about this, I mainly think of the video, the actual like broadcast that went out live.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe these pictures, like the one I'm showing now, maybe this is real. But I think there's a ton of pictures. You look at them, and I swear, like I can see like a little string that there's one picture in particular of an astronaut. It's just like looking at the camera, and if you look slightly above, it's like you can see a little bit of a string.
Wow, yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point.
Hold on, let me see if I can.
Bring it up and see if
Uh,
you see that. Está tratando de buscar el retrato. Está diciendo Stevens que hay veces que mira unos retratos y uno puede fijarse que en realidad no son verdad. ¿Ok? Y está buscando uno de estos retratos.
like I don't
All
know
right.
if it's this one or if it's a different one. Maybe it's like a bigger version of this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think it's. I don't know. Probably have to. I think this is actually one of them though, and you see these little. I don't know if you can. You have to look closely, but there's little crosshairs.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Hmm.
actually an image where one of these goes behind a rock.
Yeah,
How is that possible?
that's what I'm telling you, man. I mean, I don't even know what to believe now. I
And then
always thought.
there's one like I think it looks just like this except right above him it's like you can see just a little tiny string right here and it's like
Mm,
he gets picked up by that like I mean how exactly does that like work?
exactly. Yeah, man.
And also I think the moon has no gravity. So
Mhm.
how is it that they're able to stay on the surface? If you think about it, wouldn't they be floating?
Well, according to their big old suits, man, I'm sure those are weight a lot, so they can keep them, down, and that's why
But
they
again,
practice in the water to the flotation environment to get them ready for the moon. I mean,
I
that's the
mean, it
way I
could be
understand
this
that.
this big old jetpack right here brings them down.
Uh
But I
huh.
mean, it doesn't. I don't think it matters the weight. Gravity just doesn't care. It'll pick up anything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just these are just the things that you really think about when you're like when you think about these pictures.
Son cosas que usted piensa cuando mira estos retratos. Yeah, that's
But
a good
anyway,
point.
let's go. We'll go ahead and move on to. I don't want to turn this into a full conspiracy thing, but let's move on to our last image.
Vamos a la última imagen.
Now, this one is arguably one of the most well known photographs of all time.
Esta es reconocida por muchas personas.
Here you go. Recognize it?
Yes, sir. Why
All
is it?
right. All right. So, for those of you who don't know what this is, this image is called Bliss, and it's most well known as the background for Windows XP.
Y esto es conocido por la computadora que salió que se llamaba XP.
And it's very well known because if you've lived in, you know, maybe you lived in my generation for a little bit, you've likely seen it
Si ha visto eso, ha reconocido este retrato en esta generación.
because this image was always on people's backgrounds. It's the first image that loads up when you download the OS.
Porque esta imagen era cuando ustedes prendían su computadora.
So when you think of a scenario behind this image, what comes to your mind?
Cuando miro un escenario que viene esto, ¿qué viene a la mente? I
What do
think
you
that,
think
that,
of
that,
this?
that, that builds you up with a little bit of relaxation. Oh, that's a beautiful day. Oh, the grass is green. Maybe that's what the authors of the computers, they wanted the user to feel comfortable once they bring up their computer. And actually, to be honest with you, man, I think it did help. I think that's the way I would feel. Oh man, I'm turning XP on. It feels good, man. I like that picture. I think it psychologically did work for a lot of us. What about you?
Man, my experience with XP, I've only ever used it one time, actually, when I was really young. And then the next time I used a computer was Windows 7 because that was out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, Vista, Windows Vista. Or actually, I forget if my dad skipped Vista because Vista was terrible, according to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the next time I did use a computer was Windows 7, though.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I only have like one real experience with it, and I have used it many times, like on virtual machines,
Mm-hmm.
but like never on the like authentic experience,
Okay.
which is actually what XP stands for.
What what
And
what what does it stand for?
XP stands for experience, the Windows experience.
Okay. Okay.
And because Windows XP was the first commercial operating system that came out with Windows's new kernel, which is called NT, which is what Windows uses now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question back to you was, what do you think? What do you think was the point of the picture for the user? Was there a point to it? Like, for
I mean,
example, for me,
I
it
mean,
was a relaxation type of picture, so that way you can feel relaxed to go and start working on the computer.
I like the way I like to think of it is that it's just an image that really stands out, something that like Microsoft can market, because Microsoft has always marketed things like even Windows 95, they've had like clouds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This image is kind of like the embodiment of that, nice clouds and a nice scenery.
Mm-hmm.
So this hill is actually still here. It actually got turned into a vineyard.
Hmm.
Well, this hill was a vineyard, but then there was like an infection, like some sort of like infection or something,
Uh-huh.
and it got torn off, and then over time it actually looked like this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when Charles O'Rear, the photographer of this image, he actually stopped on the side of the road and took this picture with like a very specific film, which makes the saturation brighter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it looks like this. People think it's actually Photoshop, but this is a real image.
I was just gonna ask you about that, man. I figure it was either you can go mostly Photoshop, to be honest with you, but it's an actual image.
It's an actual
That's
image. It's a real place. It's a real image, and it was taken on a specific type of film, which is why it looks like this. It was taken on one of those, those really old cameras where you
yeah.
have to have like a film cartridge and you stick it in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was taken on one of those.
Oh, that's interesting, man. I'm glad you done your work, your homework on that. That's pretty good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that right there is going to do it for uh, the lesson on not really much of photo editing, more or less photo observing.
Not only that, the what to finish it up, they're gonna have a week, a month and a half. Just look at look at images and see how they make you feel, because that's the whole point of your lesson, to be able to go and sometimes when this in this generation we're so much into I gotta do something else instead of just sit back and observe and get details, and that is what you're bringing to us. So, students, l- take some time off and just look at images and see what brings to your mind. Well, thank you so much, sir. We're gonna take another break, and we'll be back with animation and, of course, uh, spelling. Okay? No, what's the other one?
Or
Um, uh,
animation.
animation, and science. Okay, Stevens, good job, sir. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, buddy?
Okay.
All right.